Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, all very refreshed, rested from the bye. Sipple may not be refreshed and rested.
Do I ever look refreshed and rested? Have you ever seen me refreshed and rested?
Well, all the Harley rides you gave out on Thursday night, I'd be tired too.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have my Harley.
Some miles on that hog.
Yeah, and if you didn't join us, we're going to do it at the end of the year again. We had our live show at Zipline, and we had over 300 fans show up. 400. Yeah, close to 400 show up at our live show at Zipline in Fallbrook. A lot of fun, and we're going to definitely do one probably at the end of the season again. Probably 3 or 4 years, kind of our number. We don't want to overdo it, but we recognize they're fun to do, and we get great engagement. So thank you again to everyone that came out to the show last Thursday night as we broke down the bye week. But before we get into Indiana, Nebraska, because it is a big game this week, guys, Husker Online Show is brought to you by StayHome.Care. If you're not familiar with StayHome.Care, they are a company that's there for you. They're there to help you provide what you need for your loved ones. It could be grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning, picking up prescriptions, taking somebody to a doctor's appointment. They are there to help you with the loved ones when you may not have all the time in the world. And they have a team of 113 professionals that work for them directly to make sure you get the care you need. Check them out at their website at stayhome.care. That's not .com. It's stayhome.care to find out more. Thank you to stayhome.care for sponsoring us again as our title sponsor of the Husker Online Show. Okay, big stage this week. 2 weeks in a row, we're going to get Nebraska on Fox's big noon kickoff, as they're going to be 11 a.m. Central Time this week in Bloomington, 11 a.m. Central Time the following week in Columbus, Ohio, the big stage from Fox. And, for Nebraska, they come in as an underdog, which I don't know if I would have asked you guys this back in the summer, if you would have thought Nebraska would go out to Indiana kind of as the underdog pick.
No, I don't think anybody anticipated. Did anybody anticipate Indiana being 6-0 overall, 3-0 in the Big Ten?
Potentially. If you looked at their schedule,
okay,
they had the opportunity, but they needed a lot of things to come together. They needed to stay healthy. They needed their offense to be what they thought, and they needed that defense to at least be good enough. And it's been more than good enough thus far. The offense has been everything they'd hoped and more, and they've done what they're supposed to do to this point. So the opportunity was there, and they took advantage.
The defense for Indiana, total defense, is 6th nationally. The offense for Indiana is 4th nationally. Did anybody envision that?
I'll
top
give
10 offense. Top 10
Robin called it though in the spring, like they had the schedule to do this.
Okay,
and they've done it, and they've got a head coach that knows how to win. Signetti. I got it down, by the way. We're on game week, and I've cleaned up my pronunciation of Signetti.
No more bulletin board material.
No more Kirk spaghetti. No more.
Spignetti was one of them. Spignetti.
Oh God, I was all over the map there. But I think the confidence he's instilled in this program, and how many transfers are, like, almost half the starters on offense, defense are former James Madison.
I got
players.
it right here, Sean. 5 on defense are former James Madison players, including their top 2 tacklers, and 3 on offense, including their wide receiver Elijah Sarrett, who's one of those receivers I like. 6'2", 210. That's what you need in this league. 6'2", 210.
No itty bitty committee members.
So they have 8 guys from James Madison that are in the starting lineup. There's a few others that play.
And then Rourke, the quarterback, he's got some, I guess, third degree of separation towards Nebraska, right, Sean?
Sipple wrote a great column this week, caught up with Frank Solich, and you're wondering why Frank Solich recruited Curtis Rourke, the quarterback of Ohio, recruited his brother.
Yeah. His brother preceded Curtis as Ohio U starter. They're from Ontario. I heard you talking to a radio show. That's right. They're from Ontario, and Frank said he'd go up there sometimes and find players. Curtis is a big kid, and he's an athletic kid. That's the thing that kind of concerns me the most. He's 6'5", 223. He's not stationary. He can move around, create for himself, and if he has to take off, he can take off. He was an option quarterback at Ohio. Again, 6'5", 223, sixth-year player. He's what makes me the most concerned, because he's a grown man.
It's Luke Altmaier. like another version of a veteran, like what Nebraska
much
saw
bigger
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but much bigger. But yeah, veteran in Altmaier, Rob, Sean was really poised. I mean, Altmaier was really poised. And I think that's the way this guy will be.
Yep.
You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Robin Washett, Steve Sipple, as we get you ready for big noon kickoff. You know, the bye week too for Nebraska, I think it came at about the right time. And you saw Matt Rule even unplug, and the players use the opportunity to have the weekend off and just watch a lot of football. That's probably one of the best parts about a bye week is you can just be a fan from Matt Rule to Steve Sipple and just engage in college football. And I think you can actually get a lot out of that.
Oh yeah, you can. And I did watch a lot. I saw a lot.
Did you get your De Leon's burritos?
You know what I didn't? The day got really crazy from a family standpoint. And it threatened the day a little bit, but it turned out okay.
TMI. TMI.
Threatened the day.
But no, it is valuable. And Rob, I think that
StayHome.Care, by the way, they can help you out with some of these
could have
things.
helped me actually. I do think the bike came at a good week for Nebraska.
Did.
Do you think that?
I think obviously they needed to get healthy. 6 straight games of, especially the last few have been pretty physical.
Really?
And so just to be able to take a step back and recharge physically was important. But then also, especially with a freshman quarterback, just to be able to kind of take a step back and regroup mentally is probably just as valuable to kind of reevaluate what you've done through the first half of the season. What's been good? What works? What maybe can we scale back that isn't working? And how do we improve areas that need to improve for us to accomplish what we need to accomplish over this back stretch? So I think for everybody, even for the players, the rest and mental regroup was important. But I think for the coaches too, to kind of maybe tweak some things and go over some things, especially on special teams and especially with that running game.
And we'll see some injured guys probably come back. Tommy Hill's trending to return this week. Tristan Alvano's at least working again. I'll be surprised if we see him.
I will too. Tommy Hill, I've heard you guys talk. I'll still be a little surprised if Tommy Hill's back. They've been fine without him, frankly. Not that Tommy's a great player, but they have been fine without him. Injuries have not been a big issue.
Jamari Butler, though, an extra week could go a long way with him.
Yeah, what's that been, a lower body thing? Do we even know?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any specific injury outside of the fact that it's a lower body.
He just hasn't been
soft tissue type thing.
Yeah, he just hasn't been himself.
Well, he hasn't played much.
Right.
I mean, he's getting 25, 30 snaps a game, whereas like Ty Robinson's getting like 60.
Yeah,
so they need him on the
Cam
field.
Lenhart and him both have not really given them as much as you would have thought this year.
Exactly.
Butler's been good. He just hasn't played enough. And so his production's been limited because he's just not on the field.
Good job, guys. That's exactly the way I would have said it. But going into the season, that combo, Butler, Cam Lenhart, because that's Cam Lenhart subs for Butler.
They split a black shirt, basically.
Yeah, you thought you'd get more from them. You're getting what you thought from Hutmacher and Ty Robinson.
You're getting more from Bullock.
Getting more from Bullock. Getting more from Sierra Wright.
Vincent Shavers, I would like to see him come on more, and I'd like to see Javin Wright come on more.
I think it's coming.
This is a big game for Javin Wright.
Yeah, because he's so athletic, and they're playing a team that's really athletic and will test you all over the field. Guys like Javin Wright with that length, 6'5", 235, length is huge.
And he doesn't practice much during the week. Is that what he said?
He doesn't hit. He's on the field, but he doesn't do any contact during the week. His first contact of every week is his first snap in a game.
I wouldn't worry about it. He's a vicious hitter.
Oh, he's an older guy. And physicality has never been a problem for him.
It's almost like they can say, all right, he's going to give us about 15 to 25 snaps a game in that range.
Yeah, and he gave him 25 the last game.
And turn him loose.
He gave him 25, I think 27. Rob, was that right? One of you guys, which you guys? I think it was 27.
20s.
Actually.
It's funny. Rule looks at us with
the snap count.
With the snap, because like we do the Pro Football Focus snap, and he goes, "You guys know better than I." He looks at Robin and I on the snap count things, and I'm like, "Yeah." All right,
there's Javin right there.
When we come back, we are going to talk offensive storylines as we get ready for Nebraska, Indiana. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Again, title sponsor of our show is StayHome.Care. They are there to help you with the loved ones in your life, providing you the service you need It could be anything, picking up prescriptions, grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning, getting a ride to a doctor's appointment. Give them a call at StayHome.Care, 402-205-2233. Also excited to announce one of our newest sponsors of the show. The segment brought to you by Vintage Custom Homes. They've been around since 2008 in Gretna. And look, building a home is, for most people, a once-in-a-lifetime thing. In Vintage Custom Homes, they're going to make sure you do it the right way. This is not a cookie-cutter builder. They do things custom. They do things right. They do things high-end. And, check out their website. I encourage, you look at the craftsmanship and the work that they do. They are obviously a very high-end builder, but they work with all budgets. They could possibly find a fit that works for you. Vintage Custom Homes in Gretna. Look at those, Sip. I can see you gawking at these beautiful pictures.
Yeah, I like the open air look of the one on the bottom left for sure. Vintage Custom. Oh, those are nice. Yeah.
So give them check them out at their website at vintagecustomhomes.com. Tell them that you heard about them on Husker Online. Tell them that Sean Callahan, Steve Simple, Robin, and the guys were talking about them, and we sent you their way. Thanks to Vintage Custom Homes for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. God, I could use that closet.
Could you for all your clothes? You're keeping your jacket on today, I noticed, Sean.
A little chilly in here.
A little chilly in the office. All right, let's get into the offensive. Let's talk ball, as Coach Self would say. Let's get into the offensive headlines here for Nebraska, and we hit on it a little bit. But for Dylan, I think this final 6 games is such a big stretch to kind of complete the book of the freshman year, because I think he has played above serve, at least at this point, what we thought a freshman quarterback should do.
Sure.
Kind of went through a little bit of tough wind conditions and heat conditions and a good defensive mind in Shiano. How does he now bounce back against elite teams he's going to see here? Because you look at the defenses they're going to face. Indiana, top 10. Ohio State's definitely an elite defense. UCLA, they still got athletes on that defense. We know Wisconsin can play defense. We know Iowa can. And you go down the line. Their USC is improved on defense. He is going to get really tested here over this final stretch of the season.
Yeah, and he was tested against Rutgers, and that was his first significantly uneven performance. 13 for 27, passing 134 yards. No TDs, was picked off once and sacked 4 times. Marcus Satterfield said he came back really well. I know, I've known his dad. I don't mind saying that. I've known his dad for 20 plus years. His dad would always emphasize you celebrate victories no matter what. So when Satterfield was saying that Dylan in the locker room was upbeat, happy, celebrating with his kids, he does not have children. He was celebrating with his teammates. That doesn't surprise me. You celebrate wins. It's not an individual sport. And they beat Rutgers, and it was a tough win.
I thought one of the most telling comments from Tuesday's post-practice interviews was when Marcus Satterfield was asked where he'd seen Dylan grow the most through that first half of the season. He said the biggest takeaway is that not everything is his fault. That after games early in the season, if the offense wasn't perfect, he put it all on his shoulders and blamed himself for not doing enough and putting even more pressure that was already being placed, probably more so than it needed to be, on a true freshman. So I think that kind of ability to acknowledge areas you need to improve, but not continue to hold yourself down by putting all of the blame on your performance is a tangible sign of growth and a maturation in this position where, a young quarterback has all the talent in the world, but there's other variables that go into being successful at this level of college football. And I think stuff like that is probably stuff you can point to and be like, this is where he's really started to grow.
Another area, and I want to hit on the running game for Nebraska. Matt Rule said this week they've done a really good job of getting nice singles. Use a baseball analogy. We're in October. A lot of 4 to 7 yardish type runs, but they've really kind of lacked the 15 to 20 yard run. Yeah. And look, I'm not selfish enough to say they should be getting 50, 60 yards. Those are hard to come by. But I think for Nebraska's offense to take another step forward, they need to produce more of those 15 to 25 yard runs.
Rob, you wrote it today. What was the number of explosive runs Nebraska's had? 5?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it.
Yes, from the 3 running backs.
Yeah.
So, Barney's had some, but from their
yeah.
traditional running game, the Dante Dowdell, Ramir, and Emmett Johnson have 5 rushes of 15 yards or more.
That is a paltry number.
Yes.
Okay. Now, it's interesting listening to Rule because he does cite that. So he did an in-depth look at the running game. He said extensive look. So when he's analyzing it, he takes out the sweeps. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He takes out the sacks and he just looks at the running back, basically the running back run game. He came to a conclusion that was interesting to me. And that is we get enough 4 and 5 yard runs, which indicates to me that he's okay with the movement up front. Like they must be moving the line of scrimmage more than I perceive. Because when I'm watching the games, I don't see a lot of movement up front, but I could be just not seeing it. And also, I'm an older gentleman that grew used to seeing the line of scrimmage move at Nebraska, where you'd see them blowing off a defensive line off the line of scrimmage noticeably. I mean, maybe you just don't.
That was just a different time in college football, though. There wasn't as much parity,
right?
And you would go into some of these games where Clinton Childs on the opening play would have an 80-yard touchdown.
Yeah. Well, if he was in there,
and I think so. They're averaging 3.9 yards per rush as a team, which
not
is
great.
It's okay.
Okay.
When you pair it up with the rest of the Big Ten, like it's kind of middle of the pack. Like it's not the worst, it's not the best, but it's decent. 4 or 5 yards. I think the issue though is that the movement you're talking about doesn't happen enough. You see it flashes where all of a sudden they're like the series against Rutgers when they're throwing in that jumbo tight end package with Mizzouka. All of a sudden they're just moving the line and they're getting yards at will on those 4th and 1s. But then in the 4th quarter, when they need to seal the game and get a first down, they can't even gain a yard.
That's what Sean always says.
That's the stuff. Like the timing in which they're moving the line, it's just not sustained enough.
And Rutgers was playing safeties high, so you have a numbers advantage in those situations. And that's where Nebraska needs to get more running yards. When you have a numbers advantage in the box, you need to be able to get downhill.
Yep. You always say it, Sean. Part of the staple of a good run game is being able to run the ball when you need to run. And you just mentioned
situational running.
Yeah, situational running. And Robin just mentioned a critical element of that is late game when you're trying to salt away a game.
4-minute offense.
And they've just been okay that way. I mean, they're not hammering it home like Rule wants them to. Will that change? I don't know. We'll see.
Will we see Mizzouka on the line, or is that just kind of the forbidden fruit and we're just going to have to wait till we see what we see in Bloomington? I mean, I lean that direction.
Nobody asked Rule about it this week.
No, and I don't know who's going to fall on that sword, if someone will later in the week, but
yeah, we'll talk again Thursday. Maybe I'll do it. Jump on that grenade just for the good of the Nebraska fans. They want to know.
Yeah, we weren't implying that you need to be the
okay,
one.
I'll do it.
It's not. Is it a sword? Is it a sword to fall on? Is that what that is?
No. Well, just his response that he's a backup. He's not a guy. He almost was kind of offended that we kept asking about him. So
that's the risk. Like you're just going to irritate Rule even more when he's tried to put this to bed. And I don't know, maybe it's just a deal where like what his answer is on Monday or Thursday doesn't really apply on Saturday because it's literally a daily evaluation with whatever's going on with
Here's the challenge you face on Thursday, Rob. What you want to ask, you can't word it this way, but what you want to say is this. Is he going to be in the starting lineup or not?
Yes.
That's what you want to say. You just got to figure out a way to word it better than that. Is he going to be in the starting lineup? Maybe you could just say that. That's a little direct.
Hey, Sipple wants to know, Coach.
Well, he hasn't played since the 4th quarter against Colorado in a true line. He's played these specialty roles
with the first team offense.
Yeah. He's come in for specialty snaps and special teams. But whatever had happened behind the scenes, has that been cleaned up?
Yeah, that's what
that's probably the complication of this whole thing.
Yeah.
It is.
What's interesting about that though is so he only played that jumbo tight end in that big set, but Rule said that was almost a staple of his offense in Temple, where he would run that thing 15 times a game. So maybe if he's not starting, maybe you're going to see more of that jumbo set.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, we'll switch over to defensive headlines heading out to Indiana. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. We're brought to you by StayHome.Care. Again, StayHome.Care is there to help you assist the loved ones in your life. It can be anything from grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning, providing a ride to a doctor's appointment. Check them out at their website. That's StayHome.Care, or call them at 402-205-2233. We're also brought to you by BetterHelp. And, sometimes the best way out is therapy. Sometimes it's having somebody to talk to about your day-to-day life, your issues, things that are going on is the best way. And BetterHelp is there to provide that service for you. And, it's completely on your time. You can pick your own therapist online. They make it so easy because you don't have to go into a doctor's appointment or office. You don't have to go somewhere to do this. You can do it at the comfort of your own home with BetterHelp. And they've been known to help so many people through different issues they've been dealing with. And we've got a special offer here for our Husker Online listeners and viewers. Go to betterhelp.com/Husker, and they're going to give you 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/Husker, and they're going to give you 10% off your first month. And we joke sometimes our post-game show is almost like a BetterHelp post-game show for Husker fans, and we will be live in Bloomington again. By the way,
we're doing it again. And do we know where we're going to do it from?
Well, the stadium.
Will we stay there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where else.
In some kind of box.
Yeah, generally we just go into one of the Nebraska boxes.
Yeah,
we've only run into one problem doing the show at Illinois, where they had individual guys all doing what we were doing, and they were in like 6 boxes in a row. So then we had to go to like a random box, and we figured it out. But other than that, it's usually pretty seamless to set up somewhere.
Yeah, so
got a good system.
Yeah, we got a good system. It'll be relatively early.
Yes, it's the best part of those noon games.
Yeah,
I've got my travel equipment down from 50 pounds to 35 pounds, so it has saved a lot.
Efficiency.
Yeah, we've tightened up the operation.
Yeah, you've tightened it up.
All right. Speaking of tighten up the operations, Tony White has his hands full this week.
Yes,
as we talk defense for Nebraska and the challenge at hand. We hit on Curtis Rourke in the open, but this Hoosier offense is well versed in about everything.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I know, I got to tell you, and I'm probably like you guys, I haven't seen a lot of Indiana. I know the numbers. I have a good feel for the quarterback. I know he can spread the ball around. They're balanced. They run it well. I mentioned that. I mean, remember the number 13. I mean, that's Elijah Sarrett, and he's a baller. I know they're putting up numbers. The key is, you know what the key to this game to me is?
What is it?
It's how does Indiana respond to playing a real defense,
Which they have not.
right? What does that look like? I mean, they're going to face some, players, some speed, some size that they just simply haven't seen. So how will they respond to that? That's the biggest question. I'm very interested in the first few series of this game.
And one of the things too, John Bullock mentioned this, that so the most recent game they played against Northwestern, Northwestern basically ran 2 looks defensively the entire game and really didn't do much as far as pre-snap disguises. Well, what has Nebraska been doing the last 2 weeks? Working on pre-snap disguises. So I think that they're going to try to really make Rourke think at the line of scrimmage. They want to make things as complicated as possible for him before they even snap the ball, and then have to adjust on the fly to those disguises against a defensive line of which he has never seen at this level.
It worked really well against Rutgers. Remember the conversation, Sean, that Tony White went out of his comfort zone, used 3 different looks, 3 separate looks, two looks in addition to his base look. So, I mean, Rob, I think that is a factor. How will Rourke respond? I mean, I don't know that part of it. How well does he read at the line of scrimmage, that sort of thing?
You mentioned you haven't seen a lot of Indiana. Nobody really has. I looked at their schedule over the first 6 games. 5 of them were on BTN.
There you go.
And they had the one UCLA game at night on NBC. So there's very few people in America, unless you really wanted to seek them out and watch them on BTN. But usually that means they were going head to head with much bigger games. They have not played anybody worth note.
Well, the one thing, Sean, I would say to that is I did get a chance, as you mentioned, the off week. You get to watch a lot of football. I watched Minnesota UCLA. Okay, now if you're a Nebraska fan, your major concern is that game. That Indiana went to UCLA and won 42-13. UCLA is not bad. That I changed the way I look at that game after watching UCLA. That won't be that easy. No, they're not. Listen, they're not.
They're coming to Lincoln though in November, UCLA. So
that's trouble.
I think
that's trouble.
If the wind is howling and it's,
Yeah.
I mean, they're not used to that kind of weather in
That's
LA.
a good point.
They're not.
That's a good point. But for Indiana to go there in the heat, where it's UCLA conditions,
Heat is not that bad in SoCal though.
Well, I mean, in normal, nice conditions.
It's the best weather in the country in LA.
Right. So it was nice conditions. UCLA didn't.
We're not going to not Fresno. I mean, LA is like playing in 72 every day.
UCLA didn't have any excuses. Is what I was getting at, Sean. So that I mean, that's the game I look at and go, huh?
That got your attention.
So that's the game, though. You're talking about the worst team in the Big Ten.
Yep.
Like
but
that's
it.
I don't know.
Says everything you need to know about that schedule.
I don't know how you can compose a worse non-conference schedule than what they have. I mean, FIU, Western Illinois, and Charlotte.
It's bad. It's bad. I mean, I wish I could sugarcoat that. I can't.
I mean, I don't know in any conference in America, if you were playing in the Conference USA, they'd be like, that's an easy non-conference. I mean, this is the Big Ten.
Yeah. So now, I think the biggest, I mean, the key storyline for me is Indiana. Is Indiana really for real? Mm-hmm. That's the beauty. Nebraska's going to test them. And now here's the thing, though. I think Nebraska will have to hold them to 24 to win, because Nebraska's offense isn't. Can Nebraska's offense go to Indiana and score 31? Can they score 28? I mean, of late, it makes you wonder. So I guess what I'm getting at partly is there's a little pressure on Tony White's crew, I think, right now. You can't, if you allow 31 in this game, I don't know. That'd be hard to beat that.
I think a lot of it too is how many self-inflicted wounds does Nebraska's defense have to overcome? How many turnovers? How many block punts? How many special teams miscues that set them up and starting at first and goal? Like, those are the types of things that you got to factor in, because I think from a paper on paper evaluation, Nebraska's a better roster in my opinion.
It is,
in my opinion, but
no, it is a better.
They don't always play like it sometimes. So if they can avoid those heartbreaking mistakes, particularly on special teams, then I think that defense is going to have a lot better path to do what they need to do.
Again, though, I think the difference now is no one's going to be just picking Nebraska to win out here. Like, I think the fact that they're kind of going in as a team that's doubted, disrespected. I mean, Nebraska lost one game in overtime to Illinois. They're 5-1, and they're still not in the AP top 25.
No. Okay, first of all, I want to ask you a question, Sean. Is there any doubt in your mind that Nebraska has the better roster?
They have the better roster.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, I would not. Now, there's a distinction to be made about something you just said. I think Nebraska's doubted. I don't think they're disrespected. I think you've pushed it a little too far.
I think people don't trust them.
Don't trust them.
After 8 years of continuously failing on this stage, I think that's playing into this whole situation.
But wouldn't you say they have not fully earned?
They haven't played a complete game.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a game, and Rule mentioned this yesterday. God bless him. He mentioned this. This is by far the biggest game for Rule.
Oh yeah.
Because this is that
There's
game.
Stakes.
Yeah.
There's real stakes.
This is that game where you would say coming out of it, oh God, they just won on
big
something
noon
of a
kickoff
stage.
on October 19th.
Yeah, with Joel Klatt and Gus Johnson, national TV. This is the game that Nebraska's lost so often,
and usually lost embarrassingly.
Right. So I'm glad I like Rule. Kind of reminds me of John Cook in a way, and John Cook just speaks the plain truth. Like when the Final Four is in Omaha, we got to get to the Final Four. I mean, we're not running from it. We got to get there. It's not going to be, we can't talk about, we're not talking about Omaha because that can mess with our head. No, we got to get to Omaha. Rule just lays it out. This is a big game.
All right. You mentioned the talent analogy. I wanted to give you this net. Like Indiana and Nebraska in some ways are a mirror of one another because of the basketball, where Indiana's basketball is Nebraska's football. Well, Nebraska basketball kind of creates and builds unorthodox rosters. That's Indiana football right now. And Nebraska is kind of Indiana basketball in a sense, where they get Dylan Raiola type players to play basketball in Indiana, and they kind of been stuck in this purgatory that they've been in. That's Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska gets better players than Indiana.
Yeah.
Indiana right now is doing it in almost like a Nebraska basketball build, where they're bringing in kind of a cast of random transfers that have worked out for him so far.
You almost wonder if that parallels with the expectations too, where Nebraska football has this bar, despite not even coming close to reaching it for so long. There's an expectation of not only that they should win, but they should look a certain way in how they do it. That's Indiana. Indiana can be a top 4 seed in the Big Ten, but their fans still aren't going to be happy because they lost to Purdue. Or, there's things like that, even though they haven't been there in a long time. And then I think it's vice versa, whereas Indiana football is this like fun story, where Nebraska basketball, they win, they're a fun story. Like,
it's not expected.
The pressure,
they're kind of mirrors of one another as far as the two.
Interesting point.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, mailbag time. Abby Barmore, done from signing autographs at Zipline. She's going to join us here.
That was embarrassing.
On the mailbag. You're listening to the HuskerOnline show. And we're back here on the HuskerOnline show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, Abby Barmore joining us from the mailbag. We're brought to you by StayHome.Care. Check them out at their website at StayHome.Care. They are there providing you the assistance you need for your loved ones. Give them a call at 402-205-2233. Thanks to StayHome.Care for sponsoring us here on the HuskerOnline show. We're also brought to you by Ellerbrock-Norris. They've been helping Nebraska business owners protect their purpose for over 120 years with risk management solutions built for local businesses. Ellerbrock-Norris partners with you on commercial insurance, group benefits, business exit planning, safety, and more. Start thinking long-term with your business and create a risk management strategy to protect it. Are your employee benefit costs going through the roof? Talk to Ellerbrock. Are workplace injuries skyrocketing your workers' compensation costs? Talk to Ellerbrock. Hoping to retire in the next 10 years and sell the business to family, key employees, or even a friendly competitor? Talk to Ellerbrock. Ellerbrock-Norris is helping you protect your purpose, whether it's your business and the employees in it, or your life outside of work, or your future retirement goals. Head to ellerbrocknorris.com/HuskerOnline today. Get your free risk evaluation. Thank you to Ellerbrock-Norris for sponsoring us on the HuskerOnline show. Okay, Abby, let's get in the mailbag. Where are we going?
Okay. Which player do you think is poised to make a big jump in their second half of the season?
I mean, Jamari Butler is kind of a low-hanging fruit, I'd say. If he can get healthy, I think you could see him make an impact for Nebraska, and we haven't really seen that impact in its totality yet this year. Rob?
Javen Wright is up there for sure. I think starting Saturday, he's a guy that was already going to be a starter going into the season, and despite his latest setback, is almost back to where he left off. So I think the stage is set for him to be a fixture on that defense going forward.
Let's see Fedoni. I mean, we always mention Fedoni. I mentioned him in part because I watched the Penn State tight end on Saturday against USC have 17 catches. Tyler Warren.
He's a high first-round pick.
17 catches in one game. Okay, and I'm not suggesting that Nebraska try to use Fedoni like Tyler Warren, number 44 for Penn State, but it did kind of run through my mind. Boy, the guy's got 17 catches today, and Fedoni has 14 on the season. I do think you could use Fedoni a little bit more over the middle of the field, just a little, not a ton, but I'd like to see him get a little bit more involved. And I'm always gonna say Carter Nelson. I think his explosion could be important. The big unknown on that, and there's always this gaping unknown, and that is what's happening in practice. We don't know. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a gaping hole in our game that we just don't know what that looks like.
What do you got next, Abby?
Okay, which room has to be better to positively impact winning going forward? Offensive line, running backs, or wide receivers?
Long snappers. I think the running backs, if they can get more productivity.
Wow, you guys are on the same page on that.
More pop.
Yeah, more pop, more consistency. And I guess the offensive line plays hand in hand with that. But I want to see these running backs turn 3 and 4 yard gains into 15-yard runs. Let's have more than 5 rushes of 15 yards from your running backs going forward over the second half of the season.
Well, the two guys most likely to do that are Dowdell and Ramir Johnson. I mean, those give
Not
you
Emmett,
the
who
most,
has their longest run of the season.
Yeah, I know. No, but those Dowdell's got more explosion.
I agree with you with
any
Dowdell.
of the three, and Ramir's got more speed than any of the three. So that's how I'd look at that. I go to the offensive line. I've just not seen the consistency up front. I think you guys are more aligned with Rule, listening to Rule. That's kind of more of a running back issue. I have a hard time, just from my vantage point, layman. It just doesn't look like they're moving people,
especially late in games.
Yeah.
All right, what's next, Abby?
Next one is the biggest key to victory against Indiana, Nebraska's defensive line play. If not, what's the biggest key?
Oh, what is the biggest key?
I think getting Rourke uncomfortable, forcing him into bad decisions, if they can do that with whether it's pressure, whether it's coverage looks, and with a bye week, they've had time to study and look. So Tony White, John Butler, and that crew, you would hope they're going to come out with a different look because he's a veteran. This is an older quarterback. How do you get him out of rhythm?
You got to make him see colors. You don't want him to have clear shots at his guys. Not necessarily, you don't have to get to him all the time, but definitely have colors in his face. And I think that's critical. Abby, it's the defensive line I think is the big, because I'm telling you, Charlotte does not have what Nebraska has up front. Western Illinois doesn't have Ty Robinson. FIU doesn't have
not even UCLA.
No, they don't.
But what Indiana's strength is offense. They're going to score. They're going to make plays.
How much though? How much they going to score?
Well, that's the thing. Guess what Nebraska's offense need to do? They need to do some explosive plays of their own. They need to be able to not just run the ball and get chunks on the ground. They need to hit some shots downfield.
Yep.
The passing game has been too dink and dunk for my liking. I want to see some down the perimeter guys making a 50-50 ball play and scoring touchdowns. We saw that earlier in the year. We need to get back to that for Nebraska to keep pace in a game like this.
I'm always interested in the threshold of scoring. What can Nebraska withstand from the opponent? If Indiana scores 27, is that too much? That's what I don't know.
I think if you get past 30, you're playing with fire if you're Nebraska.
Okay. All right, what do you got next, Abby?
Next one. We're halfway through the season, so who's your pick for Heisman?
Junty.
Yeah.
Travis State Hunter was there. Are you still a voter anymore?
I don't know. I was thinking about that last night.
You got to ask the Babber.
Yeah, it's funny you ask because I can't remember if I am or not. Ashton Junty, the Boise State running back, is averaging 9.9 yards per carry.
He's incredible.
He's rushed for 1,200 plus yards already. Okay. He's on pace for 2,000 plus. That's Boise State. He's the best football player in the country.
This definitely seems like the year where a quarterback's not going to win it. And, it's hard to say. It could always change. But I think
feel like that.
I don't know. I mean,
who would you say other than Travis Hunter,
like
Ashton Junty?
Could Ewers over the final stretch play his way into it? Could Carson Beck play himself back into it with a big finish? I mean, those are names within, and Dylan Gabriel. I think Dylan Gabriel,
he's in the conversation
with what he showed.
100
is on a ballot, right? You only get 3 votes.
Yeah, it's Jeremiah Smith, probably a little bit outside looking in, Ohio State receiver.
Yeah.
He's really good though.
I would say Hunter is still on a lot of ballots.
Yeah, right now I think
Hunter out though. How long is he out for?
I don't know. If the voting were to take place today, I think the Boise State running back would win the Heisman.
And especially, you can say what you want, he's from Boise State, whatever. But guess what he did against Oregon? 25 carries for 192 yards and 3 touchdowns, 7.7 yards per carry against one of the best teams in college football.
Yeah, he's real.
Say no more.
He's Frank, by the way, talking to Frank about him, Solich, who, by the way, I don't think there's ever a better running backs coach. I mean, think about the guys he had, the guys he coached: Mike Rozier, Amon Green, Lawrence Phillips, Clinton Child, everybody.
We got it.
He says Junty is exactly what we would have looked for. Because of the combination of power and speed and instincts. He's got everything.
All right, final question.
If you were a teacher, what subject would you teach?
Do we throw journalism out the window because that's too automatic?
I can't teach any of that.
That was a loaded statement, but
the yearbook advisor.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. What would it be, Sean? You're starting off.
I'd probably go with history.
Really? I can see you being a history teacher.
I like history. I mean, I don't know. I mean, PEs and weights and PE, those are obviously.
They have weights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Weight training. I had a double period weight training class.
Oh, look at you.
Jeez.
Senior year, baby.
What would you teach? I like this question, by the way.
So
Thank
my
you.
wife's a high school teacher, and she teaches in the family consumer science department, which used to kind of be known as home ec, but it's kind of evolved into this really broad spectrum where it's a little bit of everything. It's psychology, it's child development, it's there's culinary stuff. I'd probably do that because it's probably the most life skills subject, because I can't teach math. Like,
No.
I would fail
No.
kids out of school if I taught
Yeah.
math. English is what it is. So I would go with something where I could have some variety and teach things that are actually going to make kids better people than just good test takers.
Simple. What's your subject? You haven't even gave us. Are you trying to get out of it?
No, I'd probably go psychology because the psychology classes in college freaked me out. I mean, they were so weird.
Like all the tests and like
No,
trials they
just
did or whatever.
come on, think about the weirdness of that of what you learned in psychology. It was just odd, and I think it would keep me on my toes instead of bore me.
I took a class in high school called construction, and we came up with plans and we built like a garage.
Did
and I don't know how we did it because you only had the one period a day, but
you did it.
You know, we got behind schedule and the seniors graduated early, and the teacher's like, look, any seniors that want to come back the next couple of weeks and work on it, you get an automatic A.
That's pretty cool.
And so we built in the garage. It's, right on 48th and Giles and Omaha. It's still there. Like,
that's pretty
the garage.
sweet.
We built it. It was kind of cool.
I'm kind of envious of you for that. That's pretty cool.
I had a shop teacher that would like just put on a movie about like how to, I guess it was auto mechanic class. And he put on a movie about how to change a tire and then just like sleep at his desk. That's what I would do.
I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that. I would be bad at it. Shop class, I just be so bad.
Yeah, he's put on a movie.
There were guys screwing around like any high school class, and the teacher just lost it. He goes, it's just a shame that you guys can't take this serious because more than likely this is what you're going to be doing someday. I'm like,
that's hardcore.
Things you can say in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Could you get away with that?
RLS,
no,
baby.
No, you can't say anything.
You can't do that now?
No.
Yeah, you get canceled.
God. I don't know.
It was real talk though. It was
trust me. I mean, think about my age. It was real talk.
Oh,
I got real talk too.
We got the shed. We built the garage though. It's still standing.
That's good job, Sean.
Good craftsmanship.
All right. When we come back, we're going to hit on the Big Ten, what we learned and what we'll watch this weekend. You're listening to the Husker Online Show. Final segment of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut. Again, the Husker Online Show brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They are there for you to help you with the loved ones, providing you the assistance you need with over 113 full-time employees. They're there to help you do things like pick up prescriptions, cook, do laundry, help the loved ones in your life get to a doctor's appointment. Whatever it is, they can do it for you at StayHome.Care. Call them at 402-205-2233. Thank you to StayHome.Care for sponsoring us on the Husker Online Show. And Steven Sipple, I drove, by the way, through Nebraska City.
You did.
On Saturday and Sunday.
You did.
And I thought of you.
Yeah. Did you stop?
I was not. I had the family.
Well, that's not preclude you from stopping and
but
looking at
cars were on the mind of my wife on the drive down.
Okay. Well, you might have to go back to Larson Motors then. Take Lisa. That's your wife's name.
Yes.
Take
my wife.
Take Lisa to Larson Motors, Sean. If she's looking for a car, and go for a new experience. You've never been on the lot at Larson Motors. Go for a new experience. It's one of the Midwest's only dealerships with all the major brands in one location. I almost feel at this point like I'm talking to Lisa. Finding your new Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram, Lisa, never has been easier. Start your new experience today at LarsonMotorGroup.com or at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. Make the drive. Larson Motors, real people,
real deals.
Good job, guys.
All right. Let's get into last week. We learned a lot on the Big Ten. Iowa hammered Washington 40-16. Wisconsin over 500 yards, 300 rushing yards, and a 42-7 win at Rutgers. Oof. Penn State with a gutsy 4-time zone win away at USC, 33-30. And, USC had every chance to win that game. Penn State had 2 4th downs, a 4th and 8 and a 4th and 10 they had to convert to tie the game, and they got them both. So hat tip to James Franklin. They came to play. Maybe the surprise of the weekend, though, Illinois only winning by 1 point, 50-49 in overtime to Purdue. And keep in mind, Purdue was playing with a backup quarterback and a new offensive coordinator who was formerly a high school coach. So the Boilermakers racked up 49 points in that game in Champaign. The big one, obviously, was Oregon, Ohio State, 32-31. Dan Lanning is the hottest coach in America right now with what he's done at Oregon.
Sark would disagree with you on that. Steve Sarkisian.
Another Nick Saban disciple. Or I guess Lanning is a Kirby Smart disciple, right?
Yes.
And then Minnesota wins in the Rose Bowl, 21-17. And then Northwestern over Maryland on Friday night, 37-10. Your biggest takeaway, Stephen M. Sipple?
Well, you got to go to Ohio State, Oregon. It's one of the biggest games of the season. And you should go back to what Urban Meyer and Jim Tressel said ahead of the season, which was what? They've never seen a roster as good as Ohio State's. They've never seen it. I didn't see that out there. And that's a Ryan Day issue. They didn't get much heat on Dylan Gabriel. Oregon at the end was racing up and down the field. If that's the best roster money can buy, it came up short in this instance.
Mm-hmm. And that's the reason that the heat is on Day, despite all the wins that they're doing. Like, I mean, they're 5-1. They were the number 2 ranked team in the nation, but these are the types of games that have Ohio State fans kind of getting tense.
He's 1-7 against top 5 teams. 1-7 against top 5 teams. They're at Ohio State. They are still expected to win their fair share of those games.
Win all of them.
Well, then they get beat on just a random clock management deal where Dan Lanning basically blatantly cheated within the rules.
Well, he said he didn't.
No, he said he did. He confirmed that he did it on purpose.
He did.
So he went out and defended a play with 12 players so time could run off.
Took 4 seconds off, right?
and then
he confirmed it.
Yes, and they are going to probably change that rule, saying that now on a 12-man, time will not be taken off the clock.
Wow, yeah, what a move!
I mean, what a chess move!
Oh God!
And it was Tosh Lapoy, who also is he's an innovative defensive coach who was at Cal years ago, and he's the coach who gets credit for creating the faking of the injuries.
Okay,
I get to slow down Chip Kelly.
Okay. I'm sorry. I just messed up. I thought for sure he said.
Boy, Tosh Lapoy has to really be under Chip Kelly's skin because he got him. He got him again. He got him on the fake injury things over the years, and now he comes up with a rule. And those 4 seconds were the difference.
Yeah.
Because if Will Howard, I don't know what the heck he was doing.
Well, at the end, I mean, they had, I think, 6 seconds left, and he scrambled and had to get down. And he didn't get down in time. No, he didn't.
Did they have a timeout or they were out of time? They had one
timeout.
So,
they had a timeout.
Oh, yeah.
He just needed to fall down like 2 seconds.
That was Colt McCoy in the Big 12 title game. He almost did that to Sue, remember?
Yep. Still, no, Sean, your reaction was exactly what Ohio State fans are doing, but worse. They just they didn't run the ball particularly well, Ohio State. The yardage total was skewed by one big run. Howard did not look like, I'm just being very real here. He didn't look like a championship quarterback down the stretch. If you're an Ohio State fan right now, you're still a top 5 team, but it's not quite what you expected.
Is he better than Kyle McCord? I think it's a legitimate question. I don't know if he is.
This is a good question. I don't know either. I don't know. I
mean, they did all this moving around to get, Kyle McCord's doing just fine.
Yeah, he looks good.
Syracuse.
He looks really good. The game I saw him on that Friday night against UNLV, throwing darts. Throwing darts.
He's a 5-star.
Yeah.
All right. This weekend.
What about Rob's game?
Robin, sorry. We talked. Did you have another game you wanted to hit on besides Oregon?
Probably just the mutual opponents Nebraska's played with the Rutgers, Illinois, Purdue, and they're going to play Wisconsin. Just seeing how those games went completely opposite of how I expected either of them to go. Open my eyes a little bit.
All right, we're way over here, so I'm going to fly through these games, guys. Obviously, UCLA at Rutgers, Wisconsin at Northwestern, Michigan at Illinois, big game for Illinois, USC at Maryland, Iowa at Michigan State. Kind of a lighter fare of games this weekend. No Ohio State, no Penn State. They both are on byes, as is Washington.
Still, these games are always interesting. Michigan at Illinois is a fascinating game. Illinois trying to prove itself as a top 25 team. Michigan trying to prove itself as a top 25 team after it won the national championship. I don't know who to take in that game. Was that on our list this week?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thanks, Sean.
I make them hard. UCLA at Rutgers. I don't know why. I just want to see if Rutgers can bounce back.
Yeah. It's an interesting game.
Mm-hmm.
And it, that's a long trip for UCLA.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
I mean,
it
it's a
is.
5.5 hour flight.
Doesn't get any longer.
6 hour flight. New York to LA.
Those are hard. Those aren't easy. That's not an easy situation for UCLA at all. It just seems like UCLA is almost living a nightmare right now.
Well,
I've felt that way going into Piscataway before, like I was living a nightmare.
they should stay around Saturday and go to the Dodgers game.
Good.
Yep.
The Dodgers play in LA,
Oh,
or the
yeah.
Dodgers play in New York.
Oh, yeah, that'd be kind of fun as a little offshoot trip for Deshaun Foster.
Yeah,
keep
I don't
the
know if that's
season
happening, but
Try to keep the season lively.
lighter fare of games. Nebraska, the headliner on Big Noon Kickoff, then Michigan, Illinois on the CBS game, then Iowa, Michigan State's the NBC game. Those are your big 3 games of the weekend. We'll be live after the game, post-game live again. And we generally, on these games, try to shoot for about 5 o'clock.
Or 4:30 last
4:30,
time.
yeah, 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Wasn't it Purdue we win at 4:30?
I think so.
And we will get to El Toro on Friday night for Stephen M. Sipple.
Hello.
And you too. What's that?
I said hello.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. That'll be fun.
What are you gonna
I
get?
wonder what that crowd will be like on a Friday night. In that
Oh, yeah. Last time it was a Tuesday or Wednesday.
It's like, it's a dance party in these places.
yeah, it's kind of a hip hop club.
Yeah.
So we'll give you a full report on El Toro,
Yeah, or maybe.
possibly.
Maybe some details get left out. We'll see.
But if you're not a member of Husker Online, we got a great promo special as well going on. Get $40 off your annual subscription with the promo code Husker40. That's $40 off with promo code Husker40. That's the best offer you're going to get right now with Husker Online. For Abby Barmore, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, I'm Sean Callahan.